One act of kindness. That's all it took to destroy Ethan Walker's life. Or so he thought. The morning he stopped for that pregnant woman on the side of the road, he had no idea what he was giving up. His dream job. His one shot at saving his daughter from the life they'd been barely surviving. Gone. All of it. Because he chose to be a good man when the world rewarded people who looked the other way. But Ethan didn't know who she was. He didn't know that the stranger he helped, soaked and stranded in that storm, held more power than he could imagine. And he definitely didn't know that missing that interview would lead him somewhere he never expected. Somewhere that would change everything. Because sometimes the worst decision you ever make turns out to be the best thing that ever happened to you. Before we continue, let us know in the comment section where in the world you're tuning in from. We love seeing how far our stories reach. And if this story speaks to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Ethan's hands were shaking as he gripped the steering wheel. The rain came down in sheets, turning the highway into a blur of gray and red taillights. He glanced at the clock on the dashboard. 8:47 a.m. 13 minutes. That's all he had to make it to TechSmith Enterprises. 13 minutes to change his life. His phone sat in the cup holder, screen dark, but he could still see Emma's good luck text from earlier. "You got this, Daddy." With 3 heart emojis, because she always sent 3. Never 2, never 4, always 3. God, he couldn't let her down. Not again. The apartment they lived in had mold in the corners. Emma pretended not to notice, but Ethan saw how she avoided putting her stuffed animals near the walls. She was 7 years old and already making compromises because her father couldn't provide better. The thought made his stomach turn. This job, project manager at TechSmith, it was everything. Good salary, health insurance, stability. The kind of position that would let him breathe for the first time since Sarah died. Since the medical bills. Since the world fell apart and left him scrambling to hold the pieces together with duct tape and hope. He pressed harder on the gas pedal. The wipers worked overtime, squeaking against the windshield. 8 minutes now. Then he saw her. A woman stood next to a silver sedan on the shoulder. Hood popped open, steam rising into the rain like a distress signal. She was drenched, her coat plastered to her body. And even from a distance, Ethan could see the curve of her pregnant belly. His foot hovered over the gas pedal. "Keep going. You can't stop. You don't have time." But she looked so helpless out there. One hand on her car, the other cradling her stomach. Alone, vulnerable. Ethan's eyes flicked between the road ahead and his rearview mirror. The woman grew smaller in the reflection. He was past her now. Safe. On track. Then Sarah's voice whispered in his head. Soft and clear like she was sitting right next to him. "Who are you when it costs you something, Ethan?" No, he muttered. But his foot was already hitting the brake. The car slowed, his heart hammered. "What are you doing? This is insane. You're going to throw everything away." But he was already pulling onto the shoulder, already throwing the car in reverse. The tires crunched on gravel as he backed up to where she stood. He rolled down the window. Cold rain hit his face immediately. "Hey, are you okay?" he called out. The woman turned, and Ethan's chest tightened. She looked exhausted, her dark hair stuck to her cheeks, mascara smudged under her eyes. But it was the fear in her expression that got him. The kind of fear that said she'd been standing there too long, watching car after car pass her by. "My car died," she said, her voice barely audible over the rain. "I have a prenatal appointment in 20 minutes. High-risk pregnancy. I can't miss it." Ethan looked at his clock. 8:51. 7 minutes. He should say something. Offer to call a tow truck, maybe. Roadside assistance. Something that didn't involve him getting out of this car and sacrificing everything he'd worked toward. Please, she added, and that one word broke him. Get in, Ethan said. She didn't hesitate. The passenger door opened, and she slid inside, dripping water onto his already worn seat covers. She was shivering. Thank you, she breathed out. Thank you so much. I've been standing there for 15 minutes. Everyone kept driving past. Ethan pulled back onto the highway, his mind racing faster than the speedometer. He could still make it. Maybe. If he drove fast enough, if the traffic cooperated, if the universe decided to throw him one single break. Where's your appointment? He asked. Memorial Medical Center. It's about 10 minutes from here. She glanced at him, studying his face. You're in a hurry, I can tell. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, Ethan said, though his jaw was tight. You need help. It's fine. It wasn't fine. It was the opposite of fine. But what was he supposed to do? Leave a pregnant woman stranded in a storm? I'm Lila, by the way, she said quietly. Ethan. They drove in silence for a moment. Just the sound of rain and windshield wipers and Ethan's racing thoughts. He could feel Lila watching him from the corner of his eye. You have kind eyes, she said suddenly. That probably sounds weird, but it's true. Most people wouldn't have stopped. Ethan's grip on the wheel tightened. Yeah, well, most people are smarter than me. What do you mean? He shouldn't say it. Shouldn't burden a stranger with his problems. But the words came out anyway, bitter and tired. I have a job interview. Had a job interview at 9 a.m. I'm not going to make it now. The silence that followed felt heavy. Lila's hand went to her mouth. Oh my God, she whispered. Ethan, I'm so sorry. You can drop me at the next exit. I'll figure something out. No. The word came out firmer than he intended. No, I'm taking you to your appointment. It's fine. But your interview is already ruined. He tried to smile, but it felt wrong on his face. At least this way, I ruined it for a good reason. Lila was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. Tell me about the job. Does it matter? Humor me. Ethan sighed. Why not? It's not like he had anything left to lose. Project manager position at TechSmith Enterprises. It's a big tech company downtown. Good salary, benefits, the whole package. I've been unemployed for 8 months. This was my first real callback. You have kids? A daughter, Emma, she's 7. Just saying her name made his chest ache. I'm a single dad. Her mom, my wife, passed away a little over a year ago. I'm so sorry. Yeah, me too. Ethan's voice cracked slightly. Emma deserves better than what I've been able to give her. That job was supposed to fix things, or at least start to. Lila turned to look out the window, her hand still resting on her belly. I chose this, she said after a moment. Being a single mom. No partner, no co-parent. Just me and this little one. People think I'm crazy. Are you? She laughed, but it sounded sad. Maybe. Probably. But I couldn't wait anymore, you know? For the right person, the right time. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready. No, Ethan agreed quietly. It really doesn't. They pulled into the medical center parking lot at 9:03. 3 minutes late. Ethan's interview was happening right now, without him. Someone else was sitting in that chair, shaking hands, making a good impression, living the future that should have been his. Thank you, Lila said, her hand on the door handle. Really, you saved me today. Don't mention it. She hesitated, then reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. Take this. If there's ever anything I can do, anything at all, please call me. Ethan took the card without looking at it and stuffed it in his pocket. What was some stranger going to do for him? But he nodded anyway. Good luck with your appointment, Good luck with your daughter." Then she was gone, hurrying through the rain toward the entrance. Ethan sat there for a moment, engine idling, staring at nothing. What had he done? He pulled out his phone. 3 missed calls from TechSmith's HR department. 2 voicemails. His thumb hovered over the call button, but what was the point? They weren't going to reschedule for someone who didn't show up. That's not how the world worked. Still, he had to try. He dialed. TechSmith Enterprises. How may I direct your call? Hi, this is Ethan Walker. I had a 9 a.m. interview for the project manager position. I know I missed it, but I had an emergency. Please hold. The hold music was some generic corporate jazz that made Ethan want to punch something. He waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3. Finally. Mr. Walker? Yes, I'm here. I'm afraid the interview panel has already left for their next meeting. We can't reschedule at this time. We'll keep your resume on file should another position. Please. The desperation in his own voice embarrassed him. Please, I just need 10 minutes. 5 minutes. I can be there in 20 if... I'm sorry, Mr. Walker. Company policy. Have a good day. Click. Ethan stared at his phone, the rejection settling into his bones like the cold rain outside. That was it. Over. Done. He drove home in a daze, the windshield wipers keeping rhythm with his spiraling thoughts. Emma was at school. The apartment would be empty. He'd have hours to sit there and marinate in what he'd just done, and how spectacularly he'd failed. The rain had finally stopped by the time he pulled into his parking spot. The sun was trying to break through the clouds, which felt like an insult. The universe mocking him. He climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, each step heavier than the last. Inside the apartment, Emma's drawings covered every available wall space. Princesses and dragons and stick figure families. In every single one, she drew him with a smile. Like he was some kind of hero. He wasn't a hero. He was an idiot who'd thrown away their future for a stranger. Ethan collapsed onto the couch and pulled out the business card Lila had given him. He'd forgotten about it until now. Maybe he could... He looked at the card. Really looked at it. Lila Harris, Chief Executive Officer, TechSmith Enterprises. The room tilted. Ethan read it again. And again. CEO. She was the CEO. The pregnant woman he'd helped. The stranger he'd sacrificed everything for. She ran the entire company. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. With shaking hands, he answered. Hello? Mr. Walker? This is Jennifer from TechSmith HR. I apologize for the earlier call. There's been a development regarding your interview. Ms. Harris would like to meet with you personally tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Does that work for your schedule? Ethan couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Mr. Walker, are you there? Yes, he managed. Yes, that works. Excellent. Ms. Harris is looking forward to it. The call ended. Ethan sat there, staring at the business card in his hand, his mind reeling. What the hell just happened? Ethan didn't sleep that night. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment from the highway. Every word he'd said to Lila, every complaint about his life, every detail about Emma, every desperate confession about how badly he needed that job. She'd known. The entire time, she'd known exactly who he was supposed to interview with. And she'd said nothing. Why? At 6 a.m. he gave up on sleep and dragged himself to the shower. Emma was already awake when he emerged, sitting at their small kitchen table with a bowl of cereal, kicking her legs. Big day, Daddy? She asked, milk dribbling down her chin. Yeah, baby, big day. You're gonna be amazing. She said it with such confidence, such absolute certainty that Ethan's throat tightened. How do you know? Emma shrugged, spooning more cereal into her mouth. Because you're you, that's how. If only the world worked that way. If only being a good person was enough. He dropped Emma at school and drove downtown, his stomach a knot of anxiety. TechSmith Enterprises occupied 15 floors of a glass tower that reflected the morning sun like a beacon. Ethan had looked up at this building yesterday from the parking lot, defeated. Today, he was walking through the front doors. The lobby was all marble and steel, the kind of pristine corporate minimalism that screamed money. A security guard directed him to the elevator. 15th floor. Ms. Harris is expecting you. The elevator ride felt like ascending into another world. Each floor that passed took him further from the life he knew, the cramped apartment, the overdue bills, the constant fear of not being enough. The doors opened to reveal a reception area that could have been in a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. A young woman at the desk smiled at him. "Mr. Walker, go right in. Ms. Harris is ready for you." Ethan's hands were sweating. He wiped them on his pants and approached the double doors at the end of the hall. Through the glass panels, he could see Lila sitting at an enormous desk, typing on her computer. She looked different. Yesterday, she'd been vulnerable, rain-soaked, desperate. Today, she wore a tailored navy suit, her hair pulled back, every inch the powerful executive. But when she looked up and saw him, her expression softened. "Ethan, come in." He stepped inside, and the doors closed behind him with a soft click. The office was massive, bigger than his entire apartment. One wall was all windows. The other was lined with awards, framed articles, photos of Lila shaking hands with people Ethan recognized from the news. "Sit, please." Lila gestured to the chair across from her desk. Ethan sat. His mouth was dry. "I imagine you have questions," Lila said. "A few hundred." She smiled slightly. "I owe you an explanation. Yesterday, when you stopped, was when you helped me. I wasn't trying to deceive you. I needed help, and you gave it. Simple as that. But you knew. You knew I was supposed to interview here." "Not at first." Lila leaned back in her chair. "When you told me in the car, I recognized your name. I personally review every final round candidate. I'd read your resume the night before. Impressive background, strong recommendations. But resumes only tell you so much about a person." "So you tested me?" "No." Her voice was firm. "I needed to get to my appointment. That wasn't a test, Ethan. That was real. But what happened afterward? Your choice to help me despite what it cost you. That told me more than any interview ever could." Ethan's jaw tightened. "With all due respect, Ms. Harris, I can't afford character assessments. I needed that job. I still need it. My daughter, I know about, Emma." Lila's expression shifted, something vulnerable crossing her face. "You talked about her in the car, the way your voice changed when you said her name. That kind of love, that kind of devotion. You can't fake it." "Then why am I here? Why the call from HR? What is this?" Lila stood and walked to the windows, looking out over the city. "Do you know what it's like to have everything and still feel completely alone? To build an empire and realize you did it by sacrificing the parts of yourself that actually mattered?" Ethan didn't answer. He didn't know what she wanted him to say. "I'm 37 years old," Lila continued. "I've been CEO of this company for 6 years. I've increased our revenue by 400%. I'm on the cover of magazines. People call me a visionary." She turned to face him. "And I'm terrified of being a mother, because I don't know if I remember how to be human." The confession hung in the air between them. Ethan saw it now, the exhaustion behind her polished exterior, the loneliness in her eyes despite all her success. "Yesterday," Lila said softly, "you were late to the most important interview of your life, and you stopped anyway. You listened to me. You saw me as a person, not an obstacle or an inconvenience. Do you know how rare that is? I just did what anyone would do. No, Ethan. You did what almost no one does anymore. She returned to her desk, pulling out a folder. I'm not offering you the project manager position. His heart sank. Of course. This whole thing was just her way of letting him down gently, making herself feel better about ruining his chance. I'm offering you something better. Lila continued. Senior executive assistant. You'd work directly with me, managing high-level projects, interfacing with our leadership team, helping shape company strategy. The salary is $140,000, full benefits, 4 weeks vacation, and a signing bonus of $20,000. Ethan couldn't breathe. That number, $140,000. It was more money than he'd ever imagined making, more than he'd made in 2 years at his last job. I don't understand, he managed. I'm not qualified for that. I don't have executive experience. You have something more valuable: integrity, empathy, the ability to make hard choices and live with them. Lila slid the folder across the desk. I need someone I can trust, Ethan. Someone who'll tell me the truth even when it's difficult. Someone who understands that success means nothing if you lose yourself getting there. Ethan stared at the folder like it might explode. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like him. Why me? He asked. Really? Why? Lila was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Because yesterday you showed me that good people still exist. And I'm building a company that I want to be proud of, not just for what we accomplish, but for who we are. I need people who lead with their values, not just their ambitions. She paused. And because you remind me that there's more to life than quarterly reports and board meetings. You have Emma. You have purpose beyond this building. I need that perspective around me. Ethan opened the folder. The contract was there, official and real. The numbers weren't a dream. This was actually happening. There's one condition, Lila added. This job is demanding. Long hours, high pressure, constant problem solving. But I need you to promise me something. Don't lose yourself in it. Don't become so consumed by work that you forget why you're doing it. Emma comes first, always. If you can't make that promise, I don't want you here. Ethan looked up at her. This powerful woman who somehow understood exactly what he needed to hear. I can promise that, he said. Then welcome to TechSmith, Ethan. He should have felt relief, joy, something. But as he shook Lila's hand, all Ethan could feel was the weight of the question that had been building since yesterday. What did she really want from him? And what would it cost? The first 2 weeks at TechSmith felt like drinking from a fire hose. Ethan was drowning in acronyms, budgets, strategic initiatives, and personalities he had to learn to navigate. The office on the 14th floor was sleek and modern, but it might as well have been another planet compared to where he'd come from. But the paychecks were real. The signing bonus hit his account, and for the first time in over a year, Ethan paid every bill on time. He took Emma to Target and let her pick out new school clothes without checking price tags. The look on her face, pure, uncomplicated joy, made every exhausting day worth it. Lila was exactly as she'd promised, demanding but fair. She expected excellence, but she also respected boundaries. When Ethan left at 5:30 to pick up Emma from aftercare, she never questioned it. When he said no to a Saturday meeting because of Emma's soccer game, Lila simply rescheduled. But there was something else happening, something Ethan hadn't anticipated. They talked, really talked. It started small. Lila asking about Emma over coffee, Ethan asking about her pregnancy. But the conversations deepened. Lila shared stories about her own childhood, about the father who built this company and the impossible standards she'd spent her life trying to meet. About choosing single motherhood because waiting for perfect meant waiting forever. Ethan told her about Sarah, about the cancer that came fast and vicious, about holding her hand in the hospital while Emma drew pictures in the corner, too young to understand that Mommy wasn't coming home. About the guilt that still kept him awake some nights, guilt that he was moving forward, living, while Sarah was frozen in that hospital room forever. "You're allowed to be happy, you know," Lila said one evening. They were working late, reviewing a proposal for a new product line. Emma was at a sleepover, and the office was quiet except for the hum of the city below. "I am happy," Ethan said. "Are you?" Lila studied him over her laptop. "Or are you just grateful?" The question hit harder than it should have. What's the difference? Grateful is looking at what you have and feeling relief. Happy is looking at what you have and feeling joy. She closed her laptop. "You deserve joy, Ethan, not just survival." He didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know if he even believed it. "Can I ask you something?" Ethan said after a moment. "Always." "That day on the highway, if I hadn't stopped, if I'd just driven past you like everyone else, would you have called me for an interview anyway?" Lila considered the question carefully. "Honestly, probably not. Your resume was good, but we had other strong candidates. You would have blended into the pile." She paused. "But you did stop, and that changed everything." "So it was a test?" "No." Her voice was firm. "It was a choice. Your choice. I didn't create that situation, Ethan. Life did. All I did was pay attention to what you chose when it mattered." The weeks turned into a month, then 2. Ethan found his rhythm. Emma adjusted to their new life, the nicer apartment they'd moved into, the school supplies that didn't come from the dollar store, the stability of knowing Daddy wasn't stressed all the time. But he noticed things about Lila, too. The way her hand went to her belly during difficult meetings, as if drawing strength from the life growing there. The way she worked until 8 hours, 9, 10 hours p.m., like she was trying to outrun something. The sadness that crept into her eyes when she thought no one was watching. One Friday evening, 6 weeks into the job, Ethan found Lila in her office crying. Not the quiet, dignified tears of someone maintaining composure, real, shoulder-shaking sobs. "Lila?" He stepped inside and closed the door. "What happened?" She wiped at her face, trying to pull herself together. "I'm sorry, I'm fine, just hormones." "You're not fine." She laughed, but it came out broken. "No, I'm not." She gestured at her desk, where a framed ultrasound photo sat next to her computer. "I went to my appointment today. Everything's healthy, the baby's perfect. And all I could think was, what if I'm not enough? What if I can't do this alone?" Ethan pulled up a chair and sat across from her. "You're not alone. I chose this, Ethan. I chose to do this by myself. I can't complain now. Stop." His voice was gentle but firm. "Choosing to be a single parent doesn't mean you can't be scared. It doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Sarah and I planned Emma together, and I was still terrified. I'm still terrified every single day. But you're so good at it. I'm figuring it out, just like you will." He leaned forward. "You want to know what I've learned? Being a parent isn't about having all the answers. It's about showing up. Every day. Even when you're exhausted and scared and convinced you're doing everything wrong. You just show up." Lila's eyes filled with fresh tears. "What if that's not enough?" "It will be. Because you love this baby already. I can see it every time you talk about them. That's the only qualification that matters." She reached across the desk and squeezed his hand. "Thank you." They sat like that for a moment, her hand in his, something unspoken passing between them. Not romance, neither of them was ready for that. But understanding. Recognition. Two people who'd been through hell and somehow found their way to this strange, unexpected friendship. "You changed my life, you know." Lila said softly. That day on the highway, I'd convinced myself that the world was just ruthless ambition and survival of the fittest. That kindness was weakness. Then you stopped. You changed mine too, Ethan admitted. You gave me a chance when you had every reason not to. You saw something in me that I'd stopped seeing in myself. We saved each other, I think. Yeah, I think we did. 3 months later, Lila went into labor during a board meeting. Ethan drove her to the hospital, held her hand through contractions, and called her sister, who lived 3 states away. He sat in the waiting room, answering work emails while Lila brought her daughter into the world. When he finally got to meet baby Maya, tiny and perfect and screaming, Lila looked at him with exhausted gratitude. You stayed, she whispered. Of course I stayed. Not everyone would have. Well, Ethan said, smiling down at the baby, I have a habit of stopping when I should probably keep driving. Lila laughed, tears streaming down her face. Best habit ever. 6 months after that rainy morning, Ethan stood in his new living room, a real house with a backyard where Emma played, and thought about how close he'd come to driving past, how one decision, one moment of choosing kindness over convenience, had changed everything. His phone buzzed. A text from Lila. Maya said mama today. Well, it sounded like mama. Might have been gas, but I'm counting it. Hope Emma's birthday party's amazing. Save me cake. Ethan smiled and typed back, there's always cake for you. Because that's what you did for family. And somehow, against all odds, that's what they'd become. He looked out the window at Emma, spinning in circles in the grass, her laughter carried on the wind. The sun was setting, painting everything gold. Sometimes life didn't give you what you planned for. Sometimes it gave you something better. Something you didn't even know you needed until it arrived, drenched and desperate, on the side of a rainy highway. And sometimes, the worst morning of your life turned out to be the beginning of the best chapter. Ethan had stopped to help a stranger, and in return, she'd helped him find his way home. If this story touched your heart, we want to hear from you. Here's the question. If you were in Ethan's shoes, running late for the job interview that could change your life, would you have stopped? Would you sacrifice everything on the line for a stranger? Be honest with yourself and drop your answer in the comments below. We'd love to know what you would do. And if this story moved you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Soul Story for more powerful tales that remind us what it means to be human. Thank you for being here with us today.